Hello sim racers and welcome back to the Fixed Setup Oval Racing Guide. It is week 5 of season 2, aka the season of short track racing. Oh man, Martinsville's done. That was fun. Did you have fun in Martinsville? Oh yeah, UIB Fix was a mess. We'll talk about that later. In case you didn't get enough short track racing last week, well, you got a whole lot more this week. We got Richmond for C Fixed and A Fixed. ARCA's at a short track. Street stocks are at a short track. Super late models are at a short track. Oh boy. How do you feel about short track racing? I feel like I make it pretty obvious. I don't like short track racing in iRacing. It's typically awful. Well, I asked you last week to tell me, and last week's poll says that, well, yeah, nobody likes it. 53% of you voted for C Fixed as your favorite combo, and I did a lot of C Fixed last week at Chicagoland Speedway. It was great. A lot of fun. A lot more fun than the doesn't stop, doesn't turn plow box B Fixed at Martinsville. That's... Anyway, this week, new series. Again, based on your requests, a brand new series joins the F-Sorg. So let's get into it. Let's be positive as we look at this week's races. Before we begin, please take a moment to listen to my disclaimers. As with any skill-based activity, your mileage may vary with the information shared in this video. Sim racing requires individual effort in order to improve, and simply watching a video will not make you a better sim racer. Tips and tricks are not one size fits all, and you may need to adjust based on your skill level. These episodes are recorded before the new week begins, so the guided qualifying lap should not be viewed as the gold standard for the best lap time possible. Treat this information simply as a starting point for your own practice routine. Any analysis or commentary that I provide comes from my own experience on iRacing and may not always directly translate to what happens to you. I'm human, I make mistakes, and I can be wrong. And sometimes, iRacing likes to change things in the middle of the week. I try my best to provide the most accurate information ahead of time, but if I do make a mistake or leave something out, or iRacing changes something that invalidates something I've already said, you have my apology in advance. ARCA. ARCA, ARCA, ARCA. All right, let me start by apologizing for the little mistake in last week's video. In my rush to get the video done, I overlooked the fact that ARCA was at Legacy Pocono, not repaved Pocono, so I used the wrong Pocono for my guide. Qualifying obviously didn't translate. Nothing translated. I'm sorry. This is why I have disclaimer number 3. I just make mistakes sometimes. I know. All right, that out of the way. This week, ARCA goes to Five Flag Speedway in Pensacola, Florida for a 50-lap race that takes place at noon in sim. To me, the car felt pretty neutral during my practice runs, which is kind of surprising. And it may not be entirely terrible to drive over the course of a full race, if you make it that long. Qualifying well for this one won't be as critical as, say, a week ago at Pocono, but it's always nice to start up front. I used a 12-to-1 steering ratio and 65% brake bias for this qualifying run. My lap time was a 17.315. As with most short tracks, expect the worst from everybody. Anticipate drivers thunderfooting the throttle out of the turns and self-spinning. It's probably going to happen a lot. The key to success lies with that throttle pedal, so treat it right, and you just might survive one of these races. Or you'll end up in this week's episode of ARCA Break Weekly. That's kind of cool too. The C-Class Street Stocks. They're at Southern National Motorsports Park for a 70-lap race that takes place at 2:40 p.m. in Sim. I'll tell you that driving these cars around this track is a lot more enjoyable than trying to muscle the super lates around here last week. That's for sure. Doesn't mean it's going to be any better for the racing, but at least it's more fun to drive, in my opinion. For this qualifying run, I used a 10-to-1 steering ratio, and I left the brake bias at its default value. This lap time was a 15.814. It doesn't really matter what car you have at this track. Keeping the car on the bottom and protecting the bottom is the name of the game at Southern National Motorsports Park. People will absolutely throw it up the inside to take the bottom away from you. So just be ready for some outrageous dive bombs and a lot of contact. It'll be common to see drivers go way too hard into these turns and wash up the track with all that excess speed. So just keep an eye out. If it looks like that's what the driver in front of you is about to do, position yourself to take advantage of them, drive underneath of them, and drive away. In what might be the most anticipated combo for the super late models yet this season, they go to Five Flags Speedway, home of the Snowball Derby, the biggest super late model race every year. It's a 75-lap race under the lights at 6 p.m. in Sim. Now, I know I was pretty excited to see what this car would do at this track. Given the history and prestige that comes with the Snowball Derby, I mean, come on, it was just like a natural fit. Finally, the super late on a track we would come to expect to see it at. But I did try to keep my expectations reasonable because, well, you know. For this qualifying run, I used a 12-to-1 steering ratio, left the brake bias at its default value. My lap time was a 16.580. The track might be called Five Flags, but you're more likely to just see one flag, the yellow flag. All right, I know. Terrible joke, terrible joke. I had to make it. I'm sorry. As usual with the super late models, you have to treat that throttle pedal nicely in order to get a good lap time and not murder the rear tires, especially on corner exit. It's so easy to over throttle these cars. They have so much horsepower. And you're just going to get loose if you're too aggressive on throttle. Just stay patient, maintain that throttle discipline, and expect a good amount of contact in these races. It's just par for the course. Many of you have been asking for me to do the Tour Modified, so here we go. I'm doing them. They're in the series. I'm going to learn how to drive these cars. I've never driven these cars before. I cannot make that clear enough up front. Recording this episode was the first time I've ever driven a modified in iRacing, so be easy on me, all right? They go to Thompson Speedway for a 60-lap race that takes place at noon in Sim. I spent well over an hour trying to put together one qualifying lap that I felt was okay to share with you guys. I don't understand how to drive these cars yet. Feel free to give me some pointers down in the comment section below. Be easy on me, all right? For this run, I used an 8-to-1 steering ratio and a 64% brake bias, lap time, a 19.214, and I am sure plenty of you out there are going to beat that. Now, I'm not going to BS you. I spent more time than I like to admit trying to figure out why I couldn't get into third gear. I didn't know it was only a 2-gear car. No clue. But that's why it's fun to learn, and I'm committed to learning these cars and getting better with them so I can cover them in the FSORG with confidence. That's always the goal. Car aside the racetrack, Thompson Speedway always races the same. The banking in the middle of the groove will serve you well. It's going to be better than running the flat at the bottom, but just be aware of the drivers who send it in deep, down low. There's only one place they're going to end up, and that's in the middle of the track with that speed carrying them up the banking. So don't get doored. Keep an eye out for them. If you can avoid it, you're going to be better off. The NASCAR Legends series goes to the track too tough to tame, Darlington Raceway, for a 90-lap race that takes place at noon in Sim. Now, this lap is all about risk reward because you need to get close to the wall to maximize your speed, but if you touch the wall, your whole lap time's invalidated. So think about that before you head out there. Weigh out how much you're willing to risk losing trying to go for that fast lap. For this qualifying run, I used a 14-to-1 steering ratio and left the brake bias at its default value. The lap time was a 30.444, and I almost got the wall in 3 and 4. Whoo-wee, it was close. I can't believe I didn't touch the wall in that qualifying lap. I thought for sure I was going to. That's pretty close. That's about as close as you're going to want to play it. But thinking about the race, Darlington is all about tire conservation. Darlington eats up tires, unlike most of the tracks that you will go to. And this race will be no different. I always recommend, whether it's your first time seeing this track, your 5th time seeing this track, race the track. Do not race the other drivers. If somebody wants to go and be faster and eat up their tires and do all that, then just let them go. It's okay to let people go. There's no sense in fighting them and abusing your equipment to keep them behind you. It's actually pretty easy to pass somebody later in the run at Darlington if you take care of your stuff and have good tires. This track rewards patience, and if you show some patience, you just might find some success at the Lady in Black. Last week's sweetheart, C Fixed, goes to Richmond Raceway for a 55-lap race that takes place at 2:20 p.m. in sim. I found that this setup was pretty tight, especially in the center for qualifying, so I would recommend backing up those corners a little bit to make sure you can get to the bottom on your lap. For this qualifying run, I used a 12-to-1 steering ratio and 64% brake bias. The lap time was a 22.294. Richmond Raceway is one of those tracks that got a grip update recently, so don't be afraid to explore around, especially up top near the wall, to get out of dirty air and maybe find some more speed. You can definitely get away with it if people are stacking up the bottom. Not a bad thing to try out. If there's one thing that I learned from last week's Road to Pro race, it's that passing is very difficult and dirty air is a huge challenge. Okay, that's two things that I learned, but you get my point. Track position matters, so focus on starting up front and using clean air to your advantage. B Fixed heads to Iracing Super Speedway, of all places, for a 25-lap race that takes place at 1:20 p.m. in sim. What a weird back-to-back this is for B Fixed, coming out of an awful Martinsville. Just like it was awful last year at Martinsville, awful this year, and now Iracing Super Speedway. For this qualifying run, it's a 14-to-1 steering ratio for me, no brakes. Lap time was a 47.257, and I decided to do some live commentary while I ran this scintillating qualifying lap.
All right, let's do a little live recording voiceover here for the qualifying lap at Iracing Super Speedway in B Fixed. Like any other super speedway, it's all about how you get up to speed. However, got this hard left-hand turn right here on the apron. It's flat. It's super flat. You got to really woe her down, get her turned to get onto the backstretch, and then you can stand on it and go. Do not touch that yellow line, or you will get a merging too soon penalty. All right, we'll get up to speed. We'll fast forward. We'll see you for the green flag on the flying lap. All right, coming to take the green flag here. Well, the white flag, your fastest lap, whatever you want to call it. Just let the car start to wander down the track without too much steering input to be on the bottom heading into one. That front straightaway is banked pretty steeply as well, so it doesn't really take a lot of steering input to actually get the car turning to the bottom. Just hold the bottom all the way around. Find this seam right here. Just sort of let the car ride down this seam down the back straightaway. Same thing setting up for three. Let the banking do the work and let the car drift towards the bottom so that you enter right on the bottom on the yellow line. Careful not to hit the yellow line like I just did right there. Pop up onto the front straightaway. And we complete the lap. What was our time? 47.257. Wow, that's fast.
Not really a whole lot to say. It's super speedway racing. It's iRacing super speedway. It's a crapshoot at best. But I do want to mention something that may or may not impact you if you decide to take part in BFix this week. I had a league race last Friday that was this same exact combo. I don't know if we ran the iRacing BFixed setup or a custom setup. I don't remember. But there was an issue where the car on corner entry would just snap, like get instant loose without warning and just snap loose, turn around, wreck. It happened twice to me, happened to a few other drivers in the race as well. Just no warning, around goes the car. I tried to figure out what was happening. I watched the replays of these incidents and it looked like when the car got to the corner entry and compressed down to the banking, it was bottoming out and that just brought the rear end of the car around suddenly. So again, I don't know if that's going to be the case for BFix this week, but it is something that I encountered running the B car at iRacing Super Speedway last Friday night. AFix joins the trucks at Richmond Raceway, but their race is a 65 lapper that goes at 2:25 p.m. in sim. Like last week at Martinsville, the Cup cars have the low downforce, high horsepower package. So be easy on that throttle pedal. It doesn't take a whole lot to get these cars out of control. On this qualifying run, I used a 12-to-1 steering ratio, 65% brake bias, and the lap time was a 21.857. If you watch the CFix segment of this video, much of what I said there also applies here. The high side at Richmond now has more grip, so don't be shy about jumping up there to try and pass somebody. Test it out, see if it's working. I believe the bottom side is still going to be the best way to go, but if dirty air is halting your progress through the field, move around the track a little bit and see if you can't find more grip somewhere else. Also, Richmond is famous for outrageous dive bombs into turn 1 because of that curved front straightaway. Always be on your toes about somebody doing that, especially on restarts. NIS at Richmond, 200 laps, starts at 3:30 p.m. in sim. I think the biggest thing for me is tires when it comes to this race. I believe tires are going to matter quite a bit. So I would recommend coming into this race with a conservative tire strategy and an aggressive tire strategy. The extra grip will always be welcome, especially since you're going to have that low downforce package. So don't be afraid to try something. Come down pit road. If the leaders stay out, things go your way, you will find yourself driving through the field during a long run. Also, remember, restarts going down into turn 1 are prime time moments for outrageous dive bombs. So protect as much as you dare, but if someone's going for it, you're probably going to be the one that pays the price for fighting it more often than not. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor, even if it's some dummy throwing it up the inside. And that'll do it for this week's Fixed Setup Oval Racing Guide. I hope that you enjoyed it and found the information to be educational, but most importantly, helpful. If it was, please help me out by leaving a thumbs up rating on the video. Share it with your friends. We need to get more sim racers watching these videos. With your help, we'll be able to do that, so thank you. If you're new to the channel and want to make sure you never miss an episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn notifications on. Additionally, you can watch my iRacing adventures live on my Twitch channel linked down in the description below. I'll be live streaming for the next few hours and throughout the week. If you want to know my streaming schedule, head over to my community Discord and find it there. It's posted every week. If you want to get in touch with me and stay up to date on the latest channel activity, the best way to do that is to follow me on Twitter, also linked down in the description below. Again, thank you so much for watching this video, and have a great week of racing.